There is a lightness to Florida that makes people stop paying attention. The water is warm and flat and stretches out until it disappears. The lawns are green year-round. The whole state reads like a postcard that was left out in the sun too long. Bright, familiar, and somehow drained of anything that could actually hurt you. You let your kids run barefoot across a grass field at a state park. You wade knee-deep into a canal to retrieve a dropped frisbee. You fall asleep on a float in a backyard pool that backs up to a drainage ditch, and it does not once cross your mind to wonder what that ditch connects to. Florida feels finished, paved, mowed, managed, like the last wild thing in it got relocated decades ago to make room for a strip mall. That feeling is the most dangerous thing about this state, because it is wrong. Florida sits at a biological collision point unlike almost anywhere else in North America. A place where tropical and temperate worlds crash into each other, where saltwater bleeds into freshwater 1,000 different ways, where swamp, suburb, and shoreline all touch the same square mile. Something is living in nearly all of it. In the retention pond behind the Publix, in the canal that runs behind the community with the guard gate, in the 2 feet of gin-clear water your children are already running toward. Today we are ranking the 15 most dangerous animals in Florida, not by which one could do the most damage in a fight, but by how well each one hides inside the version of this state that tourism boards want you to believe in. We start with the ones you've already walked past 100 times. We end with the one you have almost certainly carried home on your own skin without ever knowing it happened. If any part of your relationship with your backyard changes after this video, that's the point. Hit subscribe before we start, because you're going to want the rest of this list. Number 15. The pygmy rattlesnake. We start with the snake you have probably already stepped near. The pygmy rattlesnake is Florida's smallest venomous species, and it's most frequently encountered, found statewide, from pine flatwoods to lakeside brush to the mulch bed along your patio. It rarely grows longer than your forearm, and its gray and black pattern disappears into leaf litter and gravel almost completely. It does rattle, but the sound is so faint, a dry, papery buzz, that it is regularly mistaken for an insect or missed entirely. People walk within a foot of one and hear nothing at all. Its bite causes real pain and localized tissue damage, but is rarely fatal in a healthy adult, and that survivability is precisely why an entire state has quietly decided it is not worth a second thought. Encountered often enough to become background noise, dangerous enough that background noise is the wrong response. Number 15 sets the pattern for this whole list. The animals that hurt the most people in Florida are the ones the state has trained everyone to stop noticing. Number 14. The Florida softshell turtle. Nobody looks at a still, murky pond and thinks, ambush predator. The Florida softshell is one of the largest freshwater turtles on the continent, and it looks almost nothing like the turtles in a children's book. No dome, no hard shell at all, just a flat, rubbery, pancake-shaped body, the color of pond mud, a long snorkel-like snout, and jaws that close with enough pressure to take off a finger. Females can approach 2 feet across. In the water, it is nearly undetectable, burying itself in silt with only the tip of its snout above the surface, waiting. On land, usually a female crossing open ground to nest, it becomes fast and defensive in a way that surprises everyone who assumes turtles are slow. It can pivot and strike in one motion, and that long neck reaches much farther than the shell suggests it should. People wade into exactly the ponds where this animal hunts and never know it's there. People crouch at the bank for a closer look and reach down without thinking twice. Number 14 has been sitting under the water you've swum in your entire life, and almost nobody in Florida could tell you it exists. Number 13. The fire ant. Here's the number that stuns most people. Insects and arachnids kill more Americans annually than sharks, alligators, bears, and venomous snakes put together. And Florida's sandy soil and endless summer make it one of the most fire ant-saturated states in the country. The red imported fire ant crossed into the Gulf Coast in the 1930s and spent the rest of the century spreading through nearly every open patch of ground in the South. A single mature colony can hold 250,000 workers underground. Disturb the mound. A footstep, a lawnmower, a toddler sitting down in the grass, and the response isn't scattered. It's instant and coordinated. Fire ants grip with their mandibles and sting repeatedly rather than once, injecting venom that burns like an ember and leaves fluid-filled welts that can take a week to clear. For the small percentage of the population with a severe allergy, one nest encounter is enough to trigger anaphylaxis in minutes, often nowhere near a hospital. They're in the sports fields, the playgrounds, the sandy shoulders of every walking trail in the state, and they give no warning until the first sting has already landed. Number 13 is the danger that announces itself only after it's too late to avoid. Number 12, the cottonmouth. Every state with venomous snakes has the one everybody thinks they already understand. In Florida, that's the cottonmouth. People know the name. They repeat the claim that it chases swimmers across open water. They've decided, without ever seeing one, that it's loud, obvious, and impossible to miss. Almost none of that holds up. What a cottonmouth actually does is refuse to move. Unlike most snakes, it doesn't flee at the first sign of a person nearby. It coils, opens its mouth to flash the stark white lining that gives it its name, and holds its ground. People read that stillness as aggression. What it actually is an animal that has decided running isn't necessary. It lives anywhere there's standing water in Florida. River edges, cypress swamp, golf course hazards, the drainage ditch behind a strip mall. A large adult can exceed 4 feet, carries venom that destroys tissue and disrupts clotting simultaneously, and blends into murky water so completely that people wading through it step directly onto one, mistaking it for a submerged branch. The legend of the chasing snake gets repeated at every Florida campfire, while the real animal sits motionless in the shallows nobody thought to check. Number 12 is the snake Florida talks about constantly and understands the least. Number 11, the lionfish. This animal shouldn't be in Florida's waters at all. That's exactly the problem. The lionfish is native to the reefs of the Indo-Pacific, thousands of miles away. It showed up off the Florida coast in the mid-1980s, most likely released from home aquariums, into an ocean that had absolutely no defense against it. No local predator recognized the venomous spines fanning off its body as a threat to avoid. No native fish had any instinct to steer clear of an ambush hunter that could swallow prey half its own length and reproduce nearly every 4 days. It has since spread across the entire western Atlantic, the Keys, the Gulf, north past the Carolinas, and been documented at depths beyond 1,000 feet. Marine biologists have watched local reef fish populations collapse in areas where lionfish density spikes. For anyone in the water, the danger is direct. Each spine delivers a venom that causes searing, radiating pain, nausea, and in some cases, difficulty breathing. And the fish doesn't retreat when approached. It holds its position, spines fully extended, and waits for the mistake to happen. Number 11 came to Florida in a fish tank and quietly took over an ocean. Number 10, the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. This is where the list stops being background trivia. The eastern diamondback is the largest venomous snake in North America and one of the most genuinely dangerous animals in the continental United States. Adults regularly reach 6 feet, with the largest verified specimens well beyond that, and a single strike from a large individual can deliver enough hemotoxic venom to kill an untreated adult. Florida is its core range. It lives in longleaf pine uplands, palmetto scrub, and the brushy transition zones where wild land meets new development. And that last part matters, because habitat loss has been squeezing this snake's range for decades, concentrating it into pockets that increasingly border subdivisions and hiking trails. It is not a snake that announces itself. Herpetologists describe it as remarkably patient, capable of holding a coil in total silence for hours, while a hiker in sandals passes within inches, absolutely certain a rattle would give them fair warning first. That warning is not a guarantee. It's a courtesy the snake doesn't always extend. Number 10 is the largest venomous snake on the continent, and it lives here. If you've made it this far, You already understand that Florida is carrying a lot more risk than the tourism ads let on, and we're only halfway through this list. Here's what a video like this one can't fully cover. There are dozens more dangerous animals across this country that never made this list, along with the actual survival strategies and first aid steps that matter when something in the field goes wrong. I put all of that into one place, the Dangerous Animals Survival Handbook. It covers threat profiles most people have never heard of, practical ways to avoid an encounter in the first place, and the specific first response steps that can genuinely change an outcome if you or someone with you gets hurt. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or grab the link in the description. It's worth having in your glove box before your next trip outside. Number 9. The bull shark. The bull shark doesn't need the ocean. Every other large predatory shark is fundamentally a deep water animal that occasionally comes close to shore. The bull shark is built differently. It can tolerate fresh water for extended periods and regularly uses that ability to its advantage. Bull sharks have been documented in the St. Johns River over 100 miles inland. They've turned up in Lake Okeechobee. They work the warm, cloudy inshore water, the river mouths, the boat canals, the exact shallows where families swim every weekend. Florida records more shark attacks than anywhere else on Earth, and bull sharks are behind a disproportionate share of the serious ones in shallow water. The mechanism is simple biology. Bull sharks hunt largely by sensing electrical signals in low-visibility water. A leg kicking through murky shallows produces exactly the kind of signal this animal is built to investigate, with its mouth. It isn't hunting people specifically, it just doesn't always have a reliable way to tell the difference in time. People swim in Florida's rivers and canals every day of the year, with no idea this animal treats the same water as year-round hunting ground. Number 9 doesn't need open ocean to find you. Freshwater works fine. Number 8. The American alligator. Everybody knows Florida has alligators. Almost nobody carries around the actual number. Florida is home to an estimated 1.3 million American alligators, a population spread across every single county in the state, every natural freshwater body, most artificial ones too. That retention pond behind your office almost certainly has one. That drainage canal behind the subdivision almost certainly has one. The water hazard on hole 7, without question. A large male can reach 14 feet, weigh over half a ton, and cover 30 miles per hour in a short land sprint, far faster than most people assume an alligator can move. And decades of proximity to humans have made Florida's alligators noticeably less wary than the species is in more remote parts of its range. Feeding them, illegal, and still happening constantly, is what collapses the safety margin entirely. A fed alligator stops associating people with danger and starts associating them with food, and the attacks that follow aren't random events. They're the predictable endpoint of a pattern someone else started. There are 1.3 million of these animals sharing the state with you right now. Number 8 is the one everybody already knew about, at a scale that should change how you look at every body of water in Florida. Number 7. The eastern coral snake. The coral snake kills through a very specific weakness in human judgment. It's beautiful. Slender, glossy, banded in red, yellow, and black, the eastern coral snake gets picked up, cornered for photos, and misidentified constantly by people relying on the old rhyme about red touching yellow. The rhyme doesn't always hold, and by the time someone's sure they've got it right, they've often already made contact. Its venom is a potent neurotoxin, and it behaves nothing like the pain and swelling bites people expect. Symptoms: muscle weakness, drooping eyelids, difficulty swallowing, eventual respiratory failure, can take hours to appear. That delay is what makes this bite genuinely dangerous, because victims frequently feel completely fine at first and decide treatment can wait. By the time symptoms surface, they surface fast and severe. The coral snake would rather disappear than confront anyone, but it lives in mulch beds, garden borders, and the leaf litter under sheds, exactly where people reach without looking first. And when it does bite, it tends to hold on and chew rather than strike once and retreat. Number 7 is the one whose danger hides behind its own beauty. Number 6. The Florida black bear. A significant portion of Florida does not fully believe this. The Florida black bear was nearly wiped out by the mid-1900s and has rebounded to an estimated 4,000 to 5,000 animals today, concentrated in the Ocala and Apalachicola National Forests, the Osceola region, and Big Cypress, but increasingly pushing into the neighborhoods being built directly against that habitat. A large male can top 400 pounds and outrun a human easily over short distances. And once a bear becomes food-conditioned, trained by unsecured trash cans, bird feeders, or pet food left on a porch, it becomes a fundamentally different animal to be around. Florida has recorded a rising number of aggressive encounters over the past decade, nearly all tied directly to human food access or a mother defending cubs. The core problem is awareness. Florida is one of the only states in the country where a large share of residents genuinely don't know bears live nearby at all, which means trash goes out the night before pickup without a second thought, in neighborhoods carved directly out of what used to be bear range. Number 6 is the apex predator that came back from the edge of extinction and found a state that had forgotten it ever lived here. Number 5, the box jellyfish. The most dangerous animal in Florida's ocean isn't a shark. Box jellyfish species, documented in Florida waters, including the irukandji and its close relatives, carry venom potent enough to hospitalize otherwise healthy swimmers from a single brush of a tentacle. The resulting syndrome brings full-body cramping, severe back and abdominal pain, a spike in blood pressure, and a documented sense of impending doom, significant enough that doctors treat it as an actual clinical symptom. In some cases, it triggers fatal cardiac events. The real danger is invisibility. Some of these species are nearly transparent and, in the case of irukandji-type jellyfish, smaller than a fingernail, drifting invisibly with the current through warm, calm inshore water on a sunny afternoon when the Gulf looks completely still and every swimmer in it feels perfectly safe. Blooms are seasonal and patchy rather than constant, which means the risk isn't evenly spread across the year. But it also means that on a clear, glassy August day off the Gulf Coast, you could be swimming directly through one without any way to know. Number 5 is the thing in the water you cannot see until it has already touched you. Number 4, the Nile monitor lizard. Florida is dealing with something that has no real precedent anywhere else in the continental United States. The Nile monitor, native to sub-Saharan Africa, capable of reaching 7 feet, armed with serrated teeth built for tearing flesh, and a genuinely powerful swimming ability, now has an established, breeding wild population centered around Cape Coral in Lee County. This isn't a scattering of isolated sightings. Biologists place the local population in the thousands. They've been documented on golf courses, in residential canals, crossing suburban roads, and in at least one case, inside a retail store. The monitor arrived through the same pipeline that created most of Florida's exotic species crisis, a largely unregulated exotic pet trade. When these animals outgrew what owners could manage, some were released rather than surrendered. Florida's climate did the rest. Plenty of water, plenty of prey, and no winter cold enough to stop them. What makes this animal genuinely risky to people, beyond native wildlife, is temperament. It isn't a timid animal. Cornered, it's fast, strong, and willing to bite and claw its way free, with no built-in wariness of humans. Pets have been taken. Children have gotten close enough to reach for one. Number 4 is an African apex predator that's been quietly living in a Florida suburb for 30 years, while most of the country had no idea. Number 3, the Burmese python. No animal on this list has caused more ecological damage, and no animal on this list is harder to actually spot. The Burmese python is the largest invasive species ever established in American history. Adults regularly exceed 15 feet, and the largest confirmed Everglades specimen measured over 18 feet and weighed more than 200 pounds. These are heat-sensing ambush predators with a constriction grip powerful enough to kill an adult deer, and a mottled pattern that renders them essentially invisible against sawgrass and mud. They took hold in the Everglades the same way the monitor did in Lee County, private collections scattered by Hurricane Andrew in 1992, followed by decades of unchecked breeding in an ecosystem with no natural predator to slow them down and no shortage of food. Current population estimates run into the tens of thousands, and likely higher. Wildlife surveys in the southern Everglades have documented an 85 to 99% collapse in medium-sized mammal populations, raccoons, opossums, marsh rabbits, since pythons became established. For people, the danger is real, but statistically rare. These animals aren't hunting humans, but they're large enough to pose a threat if cornered or surprised, and they're nearly impossible to see coming. Biologists conducting nighttime python surveys on levee roads have nearly stepped on animals they didn't register from 3 feet away, in full spotlight, looking directly at the ground. Number 3 is a 15-foot, functionally invisible predator that has eaten its way through a national park, and most Floridians have never seen one in the wild. Number 2, the American crocodile. There are 2 crocodilian species native to the United States. Most people can only name one of them. The American crocodile is Florida's overlooked species, rarer than the alligator, confined mostly to the state's southern tip, Florida Bay, the mangrove coastline, the brackish canals threading through Miami-Dade County. To an untrained eye, it looks close enough to an alligator to be dismissed as the same animal. It isn't. Behaviorally, the American crocodile has more in common with its more aggressive global relatives, species with long, well-documented histories of fatal human encounters, than it does with the alligator. It tends to be more reclusive by comparison, but it's also larger, faster, and more powerful, and encounters have climbed steadily as the species has recovered from near extinction and expanded into the canal systems of populated South Florida. State wildlife officials have logged a rising number of crocodile nuisance calls over the past decade, concentrated in communities around Homestead and Key Largo, where canal-front neighborhoods now report regular sightings. This is an animal that can reach 15 feet and move through water at close to 20 miles per hour. Number 2 is the crocodilian Florida barely talks about, sitting in the shadow of the one everybody already knows. Number 1, the tick, and the single most dangerous animal in the state of Florida, responsible for more long-term human illness than every other animal on this list combined, is one you will almost never see, cannot feel land on you, and may have already brought home from your last walk through the grass. It's the tick. Florida hosts several species, each carrying its own specific threat. The Lone Star tick, identifiable by a single white spot on the back of the adult female, is established across the entire state, and its bite has been directly linked to alpha-gal syndrome, a delayed immune reaction that converts into a lasting allergy to red meat. Not a sensitivity, a real, sometimes severe, sometimes anaphylactic allergy, triggered by a hamburger eaten months after a bite from something the size of a poppy seed picked up beside a trailhead. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are now living with it, and the number keeps climbing. The black-legged tick carries Lyme disease, whose confirmed range has been steadily pushing south. The American dog tick spreads Rocky Mountain spotted fever, a bacterial infection that, despite its Western-sounding name, has some of its highest concentrations of cases in the southeastern U.S., Florida included, and which can be fatal within 2 weeks if it goes untreated. These animals live in the grass edge of every trail, every dog park, every backyard in the state. They don't jump and they don't fly. They wait at the tip of a blade of grass with their front legs extended, and they transfer onto any warm body that brushes past. You won't feel it climb onto you. You won't feel it attach. You may never find it at all. Something the size of a sesame seed has been quietly rewriting the immune systems of people across this state for decades, in the sunshine, in the warm grass, while everyone else was busy watching the water for alligators. Number 1 is the smallest animal on this entire list, and the one most likely to actually follow you home. So here's what this list is really about. Not fear. Florida is one of the most remarkable places on the continent. The light, the water, the sheer density of life packed into every corner of it. This isn't a reason to stay inside. It's a reason to close the gap between the Florida everyone believes they know and the Florida that's actually operating underneath every canal, trail, golf course, and backyard fence in the state. The pygmy rattlesnake is still coiled at the edge of somebody's garden bed right now. The python is still moving through sawgrass too dense to see the bottom of. Somewhere in a warm tidal creek in the Keys, a crocodile is holding perfectly still against a mangrove root, and the person walking the seawall 20 feet away has absolutely no idea. And somewhere in the grass between a parking lot and a nature trail, low enough that nobody ever looks down that far, the smallest thing on this entire list is waiting, with its front legs extended, patient in a way only something without a nervous system can be, for the warmth of you walking by. Florida has been holding all of this the whole time. In the sunshine, in the clear water, in plain sight. It isn't a dangerous place, it's a wild one. And most days, those aren't the same thing at all. Until, without warning, they are.